In his statement at the Virtual Emergency Summit of BRICS leaders on the West Asia situation, Iran President Ebrahim Raisi stated that the Gaza issue is one of humanity and justice. Welcome everyone. In today's video, we're going to tell you BRICS just sanctioned Israel after Iran just declared war on Israel. Addressing a special BRICS meeting on the Israel-Hamas conflict, Iran President Ebrahim Raisi lambasted Israel, calling the Zionist regime a criminal, and stated that what is happening now is a clear sign of an unjust international system of the West. But before we proceed to further details, if you're new to this channel, remember to go ahead and hit the bell icon to subscribe so you won't miss the informative videos we will upload in the future. Raisi stated during his statement at the Virtual Emergency Summit of BRICS leaders on the West Asian situation that the Gaza issue is one of humanity and justice. The Zionist regime and its supporters have not only violated humanity, ethics, and rights, but they are also trying to deceive the public opinion of the world by suppressing valid information and spreading disinformation, Raisi added. Blaming Israel for the current Gaza crisis, Raisi during his virtual address emphasized that Israel, along with its support, is responsible for the loss of lives in Gaza, saying, "Let us not forget that the root of war is the continuation of occupation." Contrary to Israel's propaganda, justifiable defense is not barbarous conduct, but legitimate defense in accordance with international norms on defense against occupation. As an occupying regime, the Zionist regime, with America's approval and full assistance, declared war on the people under occupation and set a record for war crimes. The political and military leaders of this regime openly discussed the genocide of Palestinians, said the Iranian president, calling Israel a threat to international peace and security. The president of the fake Israeli regime has announced that there are no innocent civilians in Gaza. The prime minister of the regime says, even children are legitimate military targets. The spokesperson of the regime's army says, the goal of the attacks is maximum destruction, not precision in the attacks. The regime's Minister of Defense calls people anthropomorphics. Such a regime, which is armed with all kinds of chemical weapons of mass destruction and atomic bombs, is definitely a threat to regional and international peace and security, he said in his remarks. In addition to the 75-year legacy of occupation, terror, and violence, there have been multiple conflicts in the West Bank during the last year. In the past year, the Palestinian resistance has claimed over 200 martyrs. Did anyone have a missile there? The regime's intention was to cleanse the bank, relocate its population to Jordan and Egypt, and occupy it. In truth, Hamas operated in defense of the noble Quds and the West Bank, as well as the defilement of Al-Aqsa Mosque, and against Zionist settlement expansionism, the Iranian president added. Raisi also urged the BRICS countries to pass a binding resolution against the Zionist dictatorship in the UN General Assembly, citing the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict. He went on to say, considering the inability of the UN Security Council to implement its mission to establish peace and security, and obstructing the US to issue a binding resolution for a ceasefire, it is necessary for the BRICS member countries to adopt a binding resolution in the UN General Assembly against the Zionist regime in the framework of the Union for Peace mechanism, with the aim of stopping the crimes against the people of Gaza. The Zionist regime's ongoing attacks on hospitals and medical facilities, religious sites, the murder of women and children, physicians, nurses, and journalists in Gaza are all acts of terrorism. It is critical to identify that funny regime as a terrorist regime and its army as a terrorist organization, Raisi stated. Raisi reiterated his call for the establishment of a single Palestinian state, adding that the Palestinian people's right to self-defense and their struggle to liberate the occupied territories is supported by all governments and free nations. He remarked, "The Islamic Republic of Iran thinks that the final solution that would lead to permanent peace and stability in West Asia and the world is the foundation of a single Palestinian state, after conducting a referendum based on the democratic ideal of every Palestinian one vote. Going down the same path as previous failed peace efforts can only lead to further bloodshed and insecurity. America and the Zionist regime must also know that they cannot stand against the will of the nations and that occupation and genocide will have no place in the new international just order, he said. The leaders of the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, attended the virtual meeting together with their counterparts from newly admitted member countries. Since October 7, at least 12,700 Palestinians have been murdered according to data from the Palestinian Ministry of Health. In the West Bank, which is sourced from Hamas-run health authorities in Gaza, in Israel, the official death toll from Hamas strikes is over 12,200. BRICS countries are benefiting from the Red Sea shipping disruptions. The Houthi rebels' maritime operations in the Red Sea, which were designed to compel Israel into abandoning its war in Gaza, have unintentionally laid the ground for larger geopolitical upheavals. They are harming nations and economies far from the crisis zones in Yemen and Gaza, as these strikes force major shipping corporations to change their routes. The United States and its allies find themselves in a critical situation. They are faced with the constraints of military action in ensuring the safety and efficiency of essential marine commerce. The immediate consequences go far beyond the longer transit times and higher operational costs, as indicated by the significant rise in Drewry's World Container Index. This strategic redirection paradoxically strengthens the BRICS bloc's economic and geopolitical stance while weakening U.S. allies and upsetting the global economy's established dynamics. As major shipping corporations reroute their vessels to avoid the unstable waters of the Red Sea, Egypt, the United States' largest ally in the area, sees a 50% drop in revenue through the Suez Canal, compounding Egypt's monetary problem. Furthermore, the possibility of the U.S.' greater reliance on alternative energy sources and supply chains raises a broad strategic risk for Europe as European nations struggle to diversify their energy supply in the midst of a tense relationship with Russia. Altering global trade channels may unintentionally strengthen North America's grip on European energy security. This minor shift has significant ramifications for transatlantic ties and the global energy balance. The rise in ships using the longer and more expensive route around the Cape of Good Hope benefits the South African economy. This detour increases the number of ships landing in South African ports, highlighting the strategic importance of the South African maritime route. Increased traffic in South African waterways may strengthen the country's position in the BRICS alliance and global trade negotiations. This redirection of maritime channels could also be beneficial to India as a key member of BRICS and a growing global economic force. India finds itself at the crossroads of an expanding trade corridor. The routing of oil and gas supplies around the Cape of Good Hope corresponds with India's energy consumption requirements, potentially assuring a more stable energy supply from Gulf countries, particularly Saudi Arabia. This shift boosts India's energy security and economic links with the Gulf countries, boosting the BRICS alliance's overall economic weight. Even Russia, which has been sanctioned and isolated by many Western nations as a result of the Ukraine conflict, sees a silver lining in these interruptions. The rerouting of marine trade and the resulting increase in oil prices offer Moscow an unexpected windfall. Higher global oil prices boost Russia's revenue from hydrocarbon exports, providing a financial cushion against the economic constraints of sanctions. This dynamic demonstrates how geopolitical tensions elsewhere can strengthen Russia's economic resilience and leverage in the global energy markets. China, on the other hand, emerges as a significant benefactor of the changing maritime scenario. The Belt and Road Initiative aims to redraw the global economic map through a network of overland and maritime channels, and the volatility in the Red Sea may speed efforts to portray China's Belt and Road as a safer, more trustworthy alternative for Eurasian commerce. Furthermore, China's strategic ties and investments in Africa and Asia stand to benefit from increasing shipping via alternate routes, confirming its desire to be at the center of global trade flows. The Houthi attacks in the Red Sea have triggered a deeper geopolitical realignment. Despite their lack of direct involvement, the BRICS nations' positions are strengthened, while the United States and its allies face the limits of its power over global trade safety and security. Finally, the United States' reaction must strike a mix of strategic insight, diplomatic acumen, and a commitment to multilateralism. By advocating for a peaceful conclusion and working to protect the global community's interests, the United States may help to maintain regional stability and secure critical trade routes. This strategy is consistent with American principles of encouraging peace and prosperity, and it maintains America's role as a responsible global leader in times of crisis. That's all for today's video. As the world's transportation lanes buckle under the weight of conflict, the global balance of power shifts imperceptibly, emphasizing the interdependence of regional conflicts and global strategy. The challenge for policymakers is to traverse these turbulent waters and comprehend the profound currents of change they represent. Don't forget to like the video and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos from our channel. Thanks for watching, and see you all soon.